Let's go to heavies again. He's one shot. Fuck off. No, he's not. He pulled out his Graviton lance. Ta! Yo, what's going on, guys? This is the first video in my series, a practical application of, where I discuss the mechanics and viable setups of many weapons throughout the game of Destiny. This is not your typical weapon review that discourages using off-meta loadouts, but instead a deep dive headlong into the mechanics and practical application of these weapons. Today we're talking Gravity, a lance that at one point dominated the PvP landscape in the Warmind DLC. While nothing has been nerfed about the gun, its pick rate has gotten lower and lower to the point of it's almost never ever seen. Despite this, it still remains my personal favorite weapon in the game, and with good reason. So let's take a surface level look at the Graviton lance. Hammer forged rifling and accurized rounds are both going to increase the range of the weapon. The intrinsic trait, Cosmology, kills with this weapon cause enemy targets to detonate and spawn void projectiles that track targets. This trait is very situational, and it's going to be mostly used to finish off guardians that are shieldless in close proximity to the guardian you just killed, but even then it's still going to help you with your time to kill when you're dealing with 2 or more guardians at one point in time. It can help you secure a couple extra kills here and there. Fitted stock is basically just going to increase the stability, allow it to feel like a better clean firing weapon. And for the nitty gritty of the weapon, one that really changes how it operates and makes it feel exotic is Black Hole. Second shot of a burst rips a hole through space-time, doing high damage and recoil with no fall off. While you're not going to be getting too much use out of the no fall off part of the perk, other than cleaning off a couple guys outside of your damage range at extreme ranges, the fact that this weapon is a 2 burst weapon changes how this gun feels and plays in the Crucible. It basically feels like a pulse rifle put into the frame of a scout rifle. It operates like a proper scout rifle and not one that is completely garbage, like a lot of the scout rifles that are currently in the game. For the final bit of this weapon, the catalyst. This weapon actually has one of the better catalysts in the entire game as far as Crucible benefits. So whenever you upgrade this catalyst, you get better target acquisition right off the bat, as well as increasing the range to a near maximum. Now, while this weapon of course has no damage fall off on the second bullet, that still does not matter. Whenever you are dealing with range in this weapon, or in any gun in this game, including something like the Hard Light, even if it doesn't have damage fall off, range is still super important to the weapon itself. If you're outside of the range of the weapon, then the weapon will be less accurate. Now for the deep end of the weapon, the real in-depth. Even though this weapon produces a bullet with no damage fall off, you will still experience a drop in performance as previously mentioned. At about 53 meters is where you will start to see your weapon's accuracy start to dwindle a bit, as well as the initial bullet experiencing a drop in damage. All of these things were tested with Darcy. One of the downsides of the Graviton Lance 2 is having a bit of a lousy time to kill, a trait that is shared with other adaptive frame pulse rifles. With an optimal TTK of about 1 second, it looks kinda bad on paper. But when you consider that it matches the time to kill of precision frame scouts while also performing like a scout, while remaining more flexible than a scout rifle, it begins to shine out a little bit more. Something rather unique about the Graviton Lance is that it has absolutely no hipfire blow. When using this higher impact Einstein D Year 1 variant, no extra perks on it, its hipfire does not bloom whatsoever. No matter how fast I pull the trigger, no matter how fast I click my mouse, it will not bloom. This adaptive frame last perdition though, third burst, starts to bloom up a little bit. So what this means, basically, is that even though the Graviton Lance fires at a similar rate of fire to these adaptive frames, it still has a perfect hipfire accuracy. Keep in mind, I'm basing its rate of fire on how fast it can actually burst, not rounds in range. The delays between bursts on the Graviton Lance are a lot higher, or a lot smaller than the Outshined D, which has a very, very huge delay in between its bursts. What this basically means is this weapon's able to act a little bit more flexible outside of scoping down. And since this weapon kind of operates similarly to a scout rifle, this can actually be a very useful tool to fall back on whenever anybody tries to gun you down and get in close with a submachine gun, hand cannon, or just anything close range of the like. Sometimes this weapon can indeed feel a bit clunky whenever you're aiming down sights at close quarters. Plus, with the one bullet of black hole that ignores damage fall off, you won't be experiencing too much of a drop in damage due to the range penalty of hipfire. For those who want to know, damage fall off for hipfire begins at 32 meters, compared to the weapon's aim down sights damage fall off of 53 meters. As for PvE use, I'm not really going to give it too many praises. You're basically wasting an exotic slot for a pure ad control and crowd control weapon. It excels at killing dregs, brawl, basically trash mobs. If you are using it in PvE and you really want to use it in PvE, I recommend your first and third slot weapons, that being your primary and your heavy, to boss damage focused weapons. Swarm of the Raven, a triple tap sniper rifle, the Mountaintop. I'd even use a subclass that excels at boss damage, Celestial Nighthawk Golden Gun, Vortex Nova Bomb, or Well of Radiance of course, for Warlocks. And Titans, not even throwing shade, don't really have a great boss damage super, so I don't really have much input on that regard.
Last time.
As for loadouts with the Graviton Lance, this is a very flexible weapon, so you're going to be able to use a variety of different guns on it, but for the most part, I would say that close quarters weapons do the job the best. The best two primaries to use while using the Graviton Lance are arguably the submachine gun and the sidearm, as the weapon performs similarly to a scout rifle. The best and my most favorite submachine gun to use on the Graviton Lance is the trackless waist, which you can thankfully farm from the menagerie until you get a god roll. Something along the lines of Zen Moment, kill clip, tap the trigger, kill clip. For sidearms, Smuggler's Word. Smuggler's Word is without a doubt the best primary sidearm in the game, and it just does everything better than most of the sidearms in the game. It hits hard, it has a good range, it's something that I would really recommend using. For shotguns, what you're seeing in the gameplay is a toil and trouble, but you can also go and farm a Parcel of Stardust, Imperial Decree, or Dustrock Blues from the Menagerie. Another kind of unorthodox pick is to use the Balagan, but that's a little bit harder to farm. Another really strong loadout for the Graviton Lance is to slap a grenade launcher as your primary. Most notably, of course, is the Mountaintop. This is a really strong and flexible loadout that I used a lot on console, and sadly do not have any footage of me using it on PC, as I have yet to unlock it. However, if anything can be said about the Graviton Lance with the Mountaintop, it's extremely versatile and very, very flexible. As for armor recommendations, I think it's important that you go for a scatter projectile targeting helmet to improve the target acquisition, accuracy, and aim down sight speeds of pulse rifles, SMGs, and sidearms, which is pretty handy for the loadout that we're trying to go for. I would also go the extra mile and get a chest plate that has unflinching pulse rifle aim. I would also go the extra mile and get scavenger perks for your shotgun or sniper depending on what you are trying to use, as that is extremely handy whenever you're actually equipping a special weapon. Certain exotics can increase your handling speeds as well. For hunters, I would pick the Dragon Shadow, which is what you're seeing in the background footage. It's a bit overused, but it has a good reason to why it's overused. It increases your handling upon dodging to almost maximum speeds, making the Graviton Lance feel snappy and quick to switch to and off of. The Ophidian aspect for the Warlock also offers a very similar bonus. As for Titans, literally, no matter what I recommend, the Titans are still going to use the One-Eyed Mask. So have fun using your Marked for Vengeance perk, you stupid sons of... well, that's about all the input I've got for this weapon. Clearly this is a weapon that I have a ton of praise for in PvP. Definitely experiment with the gun. Grab its catalyst if you can. I'm going to be analyzing quite a few more weapons in the future for this series, as well as making a build video series for some of the different exotic builds that are in the game. Be sure to subscribe if you'd like to keep up to date on the series and any of my future endeavors, and follow me on Twitch if you'd like to catch me testing out stuff live. And remember guys, fuck the meta.